Yeah, this is maxYMiser, which is my tracker. A few people have told me that it does look quite scary initially. According to Twitch, it's been about 3 months since I did a maxYMiser stream, and I haven't heard the track I started since then. So let's just give it a play and see what we've got. All right, that's actually a lot more complete than I thought it was, actually. So we've got 30 seconds of music. So I think probably what I should do is start with by doing an introduction to the song. So what would be a good introduction? Let's just have a listen to that 30-second loop again. Potentially that bass, though, could be a good intro. Strings could be a good intro, but I'm probably not going to do that. Right, so there is this swing effect to get that funky swing sound there. So what I'm going to do is replicate that on a blank track. Is a hell of a lot easier if you've written the tracker and know the all the shortcuts and stuff. Now, even though I haven't used this in 3 months, it's still kind of feels like an old friend. Right. Now it's probably still a little bit too full for an intro. But what I can do is take parts from the drum and bleep section and put them over into another track, I think probably without the drums. They didn't think about British tea drinkers when they designed these headsets. But I bet the audio quality is amazing this time. I've had complaints about that before, and I bet that they are totally resolved now. I'm just going to copy this track to the next one and kind of strip it down. Before I do that, though, I want to listen to the other patterns I've got. So it's just drums. That will be good for an outro. That was the hi-hat pattern. So one is the kick drum. Let's remove that. I've also got a mixer sequence set there, which is probably for the bass, I'm guessing. Ah, no, it's for the hi-hat. So that allows me to have a hi-hat and a kick drum on the same step, and save a bunch of simultaneous tracks that I can play. But let's just remove the kick drums and see how that sounds. Kick drums are instrument 1, so I'll just go through and take out all of instrument 1. That was interesting. Try removing some of these mixer sequences as well, because I think that might be causing it to go a bit funny. What I'm doing right now is trying to create an introduction to the track I've been working on. Yeah, that's not bad, but it's clearly missing the hi-hats that were merged in with the kick drum. Well, that's no problem. I can go in and add some closed hi-hats. Listen to that then. That's good, but it still doesn't really sound like the introduction to a track. However, I will do exactly the same exercise on the second pattern. Alright, I'm going to go in and add those hi-hats in place of where the kick drum was. Oh, I missed a command there. So what I'm going to do now is switch into jam mode. So what that does is just play the patterns within a loop. And that's, I originally designed that for like a live kind of playback systems, but it's actually really good for composition because it allows you just to listen to one loop without jumping into the rest of it. Just mute that hi-hat and have a... And I start the section with a big old kick drum, I think. Alright, so I've duplicated that kick drum pattern and I'm going to do like a little drum fill to lead into the other section. not bad, but it's kind of immediately kicking into the melody section, which is probably premature. But that's not a problem. I can do a simple introductory section. Quite a few modern trackers have this thing called groove control for setting these funny swings. maxYMiser doesn't have that. The speed control does work perfectly well, but I do sometimes wonder if it might be a bit easier to have a groove control for the composer, but I kind of don't fancy adding one that much. I'm going to start the arpeggio section as well. It's not quite enough. Right, so the string section is pattern 0, 0, and 0, 3. So I'll just drop those in there. You know what, I actually think that this section that I've been working on sounds like more of a kind of a breakdown section. I kind of really like the way it drops out of the melody and goes into the what I was calling the introduction, but you know, probably isn't going to be the introduction. I'm going to make that into a breakdown, I think. I'm just doing a quick cut and paste. I'm going to get a bit more fancy with these kick drums. So I've a small bit of inspiration has struck now. I'm going to set the loop point to a little bit earlier. So a little bit later in the track, so when it loops it will go into that melody section. I'll probably change it later, but it is groovy, hopefully. I'm happy with how it's going, but I'm not sure I have a great idea for a killer introduction to the track, which is what I was really aiming for when I started the stream. I wanted to come up with like an intro. Maybe I can just do like a heavily arpeggiated bleepy thing for the introduction, because that it would be nice. What I am going to do though is save where I've got to, because create another new pattern here, and I'll try this time to create a an introduction. So what I'm looking at is on this first channel here, I have a some arpeggio bleeps, which are instrument number 8 here. You can see in this column the 8s. So what I'm going to do is just strip it down to those, and then I can add some more, hopefully in a funky place that will be a good intro. I always think doing music is a bit like making a sculpture, because you're literally just kind of feeling it out. I think it's different when you do tracks with vocals, and you can have like a song structure plan. But with instrumental stuff, I really feel like you're adding bits, taking it away, and it feels like doing a sculpture. So I am working on this gwEm chiptune that it's not really for anything. I originally started it because I wanted to do people were asking for me to do maxYMiser streams on Twitch. So I started working on this track, and originally I started to just show off techniques, but this is the fourth one I've done, although I haven't done one for a few months, and it's starting to sound a bit like a tune, so I figure I'd finish it. Yes, I am using an emulator. It's Atari. How do I rate Atari compared with Steam? Generally, I think Atari is a much better emulator, but Steam has this amazing feature in it that I can't do without, and it's called the Boiler Room. And what it is a debug aid. So you can view all the registers and insert breakpoints and stuff like that. It's absolutely brilliant for you can view all the memory addresses and stuff like that. It's absolutely brilliant for coding. So I still use Steam quite often. It's a bit more of a faff to run Steam in Mac though, because you have to run it under Wine. It does work with Wine. But I haven't really set it up on this laptop yet. I have mixed feelings about music compos at demo parties, because you might sort of think, well, you know, you can't really compare two pieces of music together, can you? That's a bit unfair, because they're both artistically valid. But I guess on the other hand, it is a bit of fun. I also don't like that there are like things like compo tunes that tend to do well. And when I first entered the Atari, well, the demo scene really in general, I did notice that there is a bit of name voting. People like to vote for their mates, and also people who've contributed to the scene in the past. I think that's all factored into how people vote. Obviously, that works in my favor a little bit now, but I sort of don't want it to actually. It is really nice though if you win a competition. It took me years before I won my first music competition, and I kind of thought, I'm never going to win one. And then suddenly at the ST News coding convention, I did win one. And since then, I've won a couple more at the Summer Hack demo party. But it is pressure entering one because, you kind of feel like, you don't want to look silly in front of all your mates by submitting a shit tune, and then you think, I've got to worry about the other tunes, and you kind of start biting your nails. I think the best attitude to entering a music compo is not to care. But I do care, so... I once entered a tune in the Silly Venture compo, and I deliberately kind of did a slow ballad, and I knew it would do shit in the competition, but I didn't really care too much. Okay. Stripping everything out but the arpeggio on that track probably has provided me with a starting point for an introduction. It's not really good enough at the moment though, clearly, but it is a starting point. Let's just listen to what we've got. We've had a few people join the stream, and I'm sure they'd like to hear where we are. I would say it's promising, but still very possible for me to completely fuck it up. Put a pad behind it, it'll be fine. Yeah, maybe. Well, let's just try that. I'm almost certain I'm not going to be happy with this, but no, not happy. I'm not happy because that pad and the bleep were on the same octave, and it was kind of blending together. But what I'm going to do now is my original plan of adding some more bleeps and filling out that melody. I thought it would be kind of cool to do an odd repeat there, but it's really not that good. Actually, on the viewing at the moment, we've got Damo, who is a dubstep OG, and it was thanks to talking to him that I really started listening to more dubstep. And what I like about dubstep is what I'm planning to implement now, which is kind of choppy delays. Like, clearly this isn't a dubstep track, and it's not going to be, but I'm going to use that technique just to I have done a couple of dubstep tracks. I think I'll be the first to admit that I'm not a I don't quite have it in my blood the same way I have drum and bass in my blood, and I'll probably do a couple more, but I'm not a dubstep master. But it's nice for fun. I love listening to dubstep as well. Okay, that's sounding better, but I need to sort out my volume levels, but I'm sort of happy with the timing. Let's just do a normal fade out and see how that... Okay. Half decent. Now, the reason that the timing of these arpeggios is quite weird is that I took them directly from, you know, there's the section with the lead, and at that point I just kind of stuffed them in. And normally in an arrangement like this, I'll just play it. It doesn't matter if you have slightly off timing of the arpeggios because the drums are very on the beat and you don't notice, but with the arpeggio on its own, I really hear that I've put some wacky timings in there, so I'm just going to like shift them and make them sound a bit more on the beat. That's probably quite nice. Let's work on the second bar, and I will save it as well. maxYMiser has these paste modes. So the normal one is overwrite, so whatever you paste goes on top of what you have. But there's also these overlay and underlay modes, which are quite good for layering multiple instruments on a single track. I'm going to try something a little bit crazy here. I don't know how this will come off, but... Not bad. Let's try and remove a couple of those. I'm going to listen to the whole of that section. So I'm going to put the first section beside the second section, because I don't want to... sometimes when you make music, it's all too easy just to rip off yourself. So here I was going to do the same trick where I had that E minor on 2 16th note steps. But I had the feeling that I'd done that on the first pattern, and lo and behold, I did. Let's not copy myself because that's boring. Oh, that's also boring. I did do a sort of roll previously, but I quite like how that sounded. So let me do a different sounding one. Yeah, that's not too bad. In this section of the track where I've used the bleep as a kind of like a filler, you don't really hear that it sounds like a boring old square wave, but when it's on its own, you really do hear it. Now, sometimes I do like to have a nice direct square wave because it cuts through, and we are making chiptune after all, so we all love square waves, but I kind of want this section to have a bit more of a warm, kind of fuzzy type of vibe to it. So I'm going to make another sound. Well, that's instrument 8. So what I can do is remap instrument 8 to instrument 9. Just here on the track, you can see it's changed from 8 to 9. And I'll do it again. So now we've got a fresh instrument here, and it won't play anything because it's not defined, but I can create a new more rounded sound. I'll probably use the same kind of thing for the volume, just a downward ramp. Still can't hear anything because we don't have anything set in the mixer. Now, before I just had a square wave with arpeggio on it. So that's kind of sounding similar to how it was before, but I'm not going to have a square wave this time. I'm going to do put a 5 there for a SID waveform, and then I can experiment with different waveforms. So this that I've programmed here is just a square wave. One half of it is F, and then the second half of it is 0. So it sounds basically as it did before, but I can make it into more of a pulse. So now 3/4 of it is F, and 1/4 is 0. Which is okay. It's good, but it's not exactly what I was after. Let's try like a classic kind of SID. So I'll leave this as a square wave, and then I'll go in and re-enable the square wave from the YM. So we'll get like a phasing effect now. Yeah, no, that's all fine. I think I'm going to have to do a sine wave, because I think that's going to lift it. Now, I've already got a sine wave instrument stored in my hard disk, because I can never remember the exact numbers for the sine waveform. Yeah, that will be good when I get the volume envelope right. Because I've loaded I've loaded that sine instrument. It's overwritten all the stuff I'd done before. Not that I had particularly done very much before, but yeah, the timing's weird. It's because I haven't set the repeat point on the volume, and it's kind of re-triggering too early. All right, so maybe let's break down that sound in case anyone is interested in what is going on here. Basically, the volume is just a downward ramp starting at F and going down to 0, and there it repeats. What might make it more bouncy is to kind of drop the volume of the very first step of the sequence. So I'll do that. Kind of make the attack less pronounced. Yeah, that's paid off. Then I've got a arpeggio which is applied to all the notes, which is just 1 octave at the start for a click, and then it drops to the normal root note. And then there's a second arpeggio being applied by the effects column, which you can see here, which is you know, the different chords, but this gives it an extra click at the start. Then on the mixer sequence, I've just got a software waveform, and the software waveform is this sine wave. So it's no big secret, the numbers that I use for the sine wave, but you might find it interesting. I've posted these on the web so you can Google it, but basically the volumes that you get in the YM are exponential. They go in a curve, so they're not straight. So you might think you can put numbers in here which look like a sine wave, but you've got to be careful because you have a lot more resolution in the lower volume levels than the higher ones. So that is why that is why the first half of the sine wave is basically maximum volume, and then there's a lot more resolution in the second half. So that sine wave is using 8 steps, and you can hear it sounds pretty rough, but you can also hear it's a sine wave as well. Well, as good as that sounded, it doesn't really transition very well into the rest of the track. Let's just try that funny pad again. Yeah, that's working quite a lot better now that they're not both square waves. And having that there does mean that when I transition into the, the main bit of the track, it's not quite such a hard step. But I still think that I can do better there. What I'll do is maybe add a hi-hat pattern. I just think that this, as cool as it is, doesn't grab the attention enough in the first few seconds of the track. Let's add a hi-hat just to the hi-hat is working. Just adding a bit of extra funk to it. I'll also put a kick drum on that first step. Right, that is getting somewhere. Well, let's see how this sounds. It should be roughly okay. Okay, I think that's a pretty good 1.5 hours worth of work. Clearly, the introduction needs to be much longer and more developed before we kick into the full melody and stuff. But that can be added, and I will do that in my next stream. Take care, and I will see you all next week.